As most of you have already seen by now, CD Projekt Red revealed the latest Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay, and it was a little different compared to last year. I think a lot of people had an expectation that it wasn't going to be an heavily edited video, it was just going to be straightforward. Here's a long preview of what the game looks like, here's a mission, but that's not what CD Projekt Red did this time around. They revealed a few days before the gameplay reveal that they were going to have a heavily edited video because of massive spoilers. Although, as we discussed in a previous video, some don't agree with that decision because journalists and many who have actually seen the demo at E3 and Gamescom have already kind of spoiled what actually happens, but it seems like this may have been a decision made because the general audience isn't reading IGN previews, GameSpot, or whatever, and the gameplay video is their first time actually seeing Cyberpunk 2077 footage. So, interesting decision, not everybody agreed with it, and personally myself, I was a little surprised that the gameplay video was as heavily edited as it was. It kind of was like Red Dead Redemption 2's gameplay trailer that was released back in, I think it was just a few months before the release in October 2018. It had somebody discussing some of the features above, but it was heavily edited. And this time around, CD Projekt Red did it differently, and there were some criticisms from this reveal. One of the big ones was downgrade concerns. I saw that as I live streamed it. A lot of people were saying that in the chat, that they felt that the footage had been downgraded, and if you actually compare some of the footage that was shown back at E3 2019 that Keanu Reeves revealed on stage when they were showing the release date, it does look like there are some technical issues, but obviously the game is still 8 months away. Hopefully this will be fixed, but it seems to be something's wrong with the RTX that Cyberpunk 2077 is trying to utilize. As I'll show on the screen, somebody put together a comparison of the E3 2019 sneak peek from June 2019 and the recent deep dive which came just a few days ago. And if you look through this, there's one clear thing. It looks more blurry and it looks more dark in certain areas, and I think a lot of people had immediate concerns about that, but it does appear just to be some technical issues. As one user said, something strange going on here. Detail and assets all seem identical, but there's like an additional layer of blurriness and grayness on top of the deep dive. Additionally, the RTX seems to work great on environments. Look at the right hand side of the bike shot, much better in the deep dive, but very strange on character models. Placide, the hands, and the agent, the RTX reflections make them look more plastic, something that I actually do agree with, and that was something that I did notice and I mentioned in my live stream. And actually, if you proceed and see some of the more responses, it just seems like there's technical issues. As one user said, I would put it down to a bad implementation of DLSS, and this is hopefully something that will be fixed by CD Projekt Red, but I can understand a lot of the concerns that many have right now. But yeah, these are just some of the pros and cons of showing off a game so early. And now a year later, like how game development is, so much has been changed. Not necessarily just with the graphics, but just a lot of aspects such as the minimap, the user interface, the menus. A lot has been changed, and a lot will be changed from now to, well, April 2020 when the game releases. Now, following this gameplay reveal, another big question was raised, and it doesn't appear necessarily anything has been changed. It just seems like there's been a revelation, and the response coming from CD Projekt Red has not exactly been it's been very broad. It's been confusing. That's the best way to put it. And a lot of people are frustrated by some of the communication coming out. But here's what exactly happened. A Reddit post revealed that the game is entirely in first-person perspective, even cutscenes. We knew about the first-person perspective. This is something that a lot of people have been critical of for the last few years. It was a decision that it's creative, but a lot of people do not agree with it. Some people have motion sickness issues with first-person games, so it's a turn-off for a lot of people. But this is something that CD Projekt Red wants to do, and as we learned, I believe it was last year, here's an explanation from Mike Pondsmith with that decision. He said, I got to wander through a lot more than was shown at E3 2018. The sequences where you're going down to the Ripper Dock and all that, that's entire neighborhood areas and where you walk around and you can listen to people's gossip. Because it's in first person, what I love is you get that stuff peripherally. You could be crossing to go down the street and get something and hear somebody say something behind you, and you have to turn turn and figure out who said it in a crowd and where. You don't have complete situational awareness, which makes it a far more powerful experience. And as you would continue, you stop doing your gameplay on a strategic level. You have to do it on a tactical, immediate level because you don't know everything. When you're in third person, you can look and see the entire battlefield, so to speak. When I'm in first person, I'm in it. Stuff that happens around me is coming to me at the speed it would naturally. So yeah, for the last few years, CD Projekt Red and Mike Pondsmith have been explaining and kind of trying to downplay concerns over the decision to go first person with this game, but there's a lot of people that feel it should just be an optional feature, but that obviously is not something that they're thinking of right now. Personally, myself, I hope that maybe after release this is something they look at, because modders will definitely be looking at it, and it will be something that's probably going to be the most downloaded feature not coming from CD Projekt Red. But yes, back to the recent revelation, which has caused some criticism, some frustration, and some disappointment. As was revealed on the Cyberpunk 2077 subreddit, somebody asked the Cyberpunk 2077 Facebook account in a message, "Hello, some people said there's no more third-person perspective view in cutscenes, etc. Is that true?" And the response they got is, "In Cyberpunk 2077, immersion is very important for us, so yes, cutscenes are first-person perspective." And then this individual would also ask about romance scenes, and they said it's the same thing, it's going to be in first person, and I immediately saw a lot of people, including myself, I was like, how is this going to work? It's going to look extremely awkward if you're trying to, I guess, kiss a non-playable character. It's just gonna look weird. But somebody mentioned Far Cry 3 with some of the romancing, and it could work out if you remember Far Cry 3, and I think it was Citra, so that could work, and in most cases it doesn't work with first person, but we'll see. I'm open to seeing it, and that's the big thing with Cyberpunk 2077. You kind of have to have faith in CD Projekt Red. They delivered with The Witcher 3, and I think they will deliver here again, but there are a lot of questions that are being raised, and the decisions that they are making are very bold, something that not everybody will agree with. But yes, following this Facebook response, a lot of questions, concerns have been raised, because I think a lot of people thought, they knew that the gameplay was going to be played from a first-person perspective, but they thought it was going to be like The Witcher 3, which had Geralt, and you would see him, you would see the actual character, and they thought it would be the same way with Cyberpunk 2077. We saw some of that in the E3 2018 demo. I'll show some of that footage where you see V in her apartment, and I think that was the expectation. We'd have more scenes like that throughout the game, but it seems it's going to be very little. But some thought that this may have just been faked and somebody was trying to stir up some drama, but actually on the Cyberpunk 2077 official Discord, the Cyberpunk 2077 community manager Lilea also said the exact same thing. Responding to some of the users who were asking questions, I think I said that here already, so I'll repeat, immersion is one of our top priorities since it shows the action from players' perspectives, first person. We wanted to make dialogue options almost indistinguishable from gameplay. You won't have any metes, I think I said that right, probably not, sliding in to indicate that a cutscene has started. So yes, this is a creative decision, not everybody's going to agree with it, but there's still a lot of questions if it's going to be entirely first person or is there going to be some third person mixed in. And that's actually the response that we got from another Cyberpunk 2077 developer, or I should say the community manager, and this came earlier today from Marcin Mamot. He said, achieving full immersion in a first person perspective game is extremely important, and the decision made by the team to go 100% first person in Cyberpunk is something that will benefit it greatly from gameplay and storytelling perspectives. That said, players will still be able to see their characters in the inventory screen during driving sequences and mirrors, and very occasionally in some of the cutscenes. This is a decision that a lot of people find strange with a full-blown role-playing game, and I know that there's a lot of first-person games that have done a good job with story, a lot of first-person shooters, which is not what Cyberpunk 2077 is, as CD Projekt Red has said, but a lot of people care about customization with this game, and since it is a big focus right now, a lot of people are saying that it's kind of pointless to customize your character, and that's something that's, I think, CD Projekt Red needs to better explain. But I mean, this is where we stand right now, and there's been a lot of misinformation going around, so no, first person cutscenes are not 100%. There are going to be some third person in there, but for the most part, this is what the goal was with Cyberpunk 2077 from the start. As was revealed in an interview last year from Cyberpunk 2077's lead cinematic animator, he said, "The way we actually approach this, we're calling it the directive scene system. From my perspective, we're trying to blend cinematics and gameplay. The way it works is that since we're creating a first-person perspective open-world RPG, we want to keep the player as immersed in the game as possible. We're using the directive scene system as a way of pulling you into this world and keeping you in the scenes." And he would further explain that what this means for players is that they can actually interrupt otherwise scripted cutscenes, changing the course of events instead of sitting through it to the end. You can actually pull out a gun there. It's a super challenging thing for us, but it's also really cool. It gives this visceral feeling of being there, that this matters and you pay the consequences of your actions. But continuing forward, as a former CD Projekt Red employee explained on Twitter, nothing has changed with Cyberpunk 2077. Majority of the cutscenes will be in first person, as you saw in the gameplay videos, bathtub scene, Ripper Doc. Some cutscenes will be in third person perspective, V rising from the bed, as I've shown in some of the footage within this video. It's a designer's decision that you can't judge before playing the game. And remember, that was one of the big things that CD Projekt Red kind of explained in their secret message from this past E3. They said, "If you like what you see, we will appreciate you voting yes for Cyberpunk 2077 with a pre-order. If you are still hesitating though, we would rather you wait for more materials or reviews. Our goal is for you to truly enjoy this game and not regret a pre-order. So if you are on the fence about playing this game or purchasing it, wait until reviews come and see what reviewers and journalists and YouTubers like myself actually think of it. Personally myself, I have faith in CD Projekt Red to deliver, and that's what I'm expecting here, but that doesn't mean that a lot of questions still are not going to be raised. Like, in this Forbes article that just popped up a few hours ago, they made some great points, and these are some of the things I'm thinking about. The immediate question that this is raised among the community is how this dramatically reduces the time you actually see your character on screen, making CDPR's elaborate and rather beautiful character creator feel much less important than it was yesterday. I find it hilarious they're saying you'll see your character in mirrors like that's supposed to help, along with menus, driving, and very occasionally actual cutscenes. This is a big bummer because so much weight is given to you making your own version of V as the player. It's hard to imagine people getting attached to, say, their Commander Shepard in Mass Effect if they weren't seen frequently in cutscenes and conversations. And as they would further explain, an additional follow-up question is how to say the promised romance or adult scenes in the game will be handled if everything is in first person. Even the simple act of something like, say, kissing, as I hit on earlier, someone would now be very awkward in first person, though perhaps less for other activities, as it was in Far Cry 3, and I think it will be in this game, although that assumes that we're going to see a lot of body, and not a lot of games do that. A lot of games circle away from that, so we'll see. But the last part of this thought from this Forbes article is, but it's possible these scenes could be one of the few that remain in third person, who knows, although it seems like it will be first person, so we'll have to see how all this works out. Right now I have a lot of questions, but I do have faith that CD Projekt Red will deliver, but I do think that this decision not to make at least third person an option is one that I've just never agreed with. And now the revelation that cutscenes will almost entirely be first person, that again is something that a lot of people will not agree with, and it just feels like the last few weeks there's been a lot of criticism and a lot of controversies surrounding this game, and it'll be interesting. We're still 8 months away, and hopefully CD Projekt Red takes this feedback and maybe changes some of the things that they were planning with this game. But this is what they're making, and if you agree with it, you'll play it day one. If you don't, maybe just wait for some reviews to pop up when the game releases. But that's where we are right now, and as I said before, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of frustration, a lot of disappointment going around, but how do you feel about this decision? Do you agree with it? Do you not? Because I've seen a very mixed reception on my own Twitter feed, but as always, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value. Make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games. And again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.